Hi guys, I'd like to welcome you to our kitchen one more time. Today we're doing another video where we're preparing food for our cats. As you know, we feed them raw, so we're going to show you a new recipe that we have. Today's recipe will be made entirely out of pork, so we have some pork loin steaks, we have some pork liver, and then pork hearts. To top it all off, we have some, you guessed it, chicken eggs. Then we have some sardines, and for the bone content, we're using the bone meal powder. Just makes it a little bit easier than using the carcass. Obtaining the carcass, seems a little bit problematic sometimes, so this just makes it a lot more convenient, and you don't need the blender. Naturally, it's better if you give your cat the actual pieces of bone, so if you're lucky enough that your cat will eat them, I'd suggest giving them actual bone. And now, I think we're ready to start with our recipe. The first thing I'm going to do, I'm actually going to chop all the meat. One of our cats is super picky and he's not going to eat pieces that are too big. So I'm having to cut the meat into fairly small cubes, nothing too excessively small. Something like this will be just perfect. Obviously, if your cat will chew through bigger pieces, it's probably even better. Give them something to chew on and, work that jaw. So you can go ahead and pick the size that suits your cat really. This is the pieces that we know that work for our cats, so that's what we're going with. For today's recipe, we're using 1.92 kilograms of the pork loin. We also have 210 grams of the liver and 230 grams of the pork hearts. As you can see, 3 chicken eggs, and this is 130 grams of the sardines for flavor. And when it comes to the bone meal, we're going with 35 grams. All of the measurements that we're using for today's recipe you can find on the screen right now. And also, if you're going to prepare something bigger or smaller, the best way to do just multiply it in all of the ingredients, and that should give you the correct formula. But in general, the most important things that you need to remember when you're preparing raw food for your cat is one, the ratio that you're combining the ingredients with. So you need 80% of the muscle meat, you need 10% of organs, and 10% of the bone content. Do bear in mind that the heart actually counts as the muscle, not as the organ, as some would expect. Second of all, you need to remember about the taurine content. For example, in today's recipe, the main source of the taurine is the pork loin. If you do plan to use different meats, for example chicken, a good source of taurine is the chicken hearts or chicken thighs. Do keep in mind that the chicken breast doesn't actually contain much taurine. We're going to actually link some of the sources that you can use down below. If you do plan to use different meats, it's important to keep an eye on the taurine. Also, quick Google search should really quickly tell you how much taurine is in each meat. So what I'm doing right now, I'm just chopping everything into small pieces. This is the liver that I'm working on right now. And I think that's also what's nice about today's recipe. You literally need no equipment whatsoever, just knife. In our previous recipes, we have used something that we call the cat gravy. If you do want to see how to make your own cat gravy and take this recipe even to a higher level, and you are happy to use different equipment, do check it out on this side. I always get it wrong. It's one of these sides. Okay, I finished with all of the liver. As you can see, there is some leftovers in the bowl. Looks a little bit watery, but I'm still going to put that in, get that vitamins for the cats. And the hearts that we actually got today, they chopped into pieces, so I'm just going to make sure there's nothing too big. I'm not going to be particularly, careful with this. They don't have to be perfect or the exact size, nor should they really. And then we chuck all of this in the bowl together with the previous stuff. The next ingredients that I'm going to put in the bowl are actually not essential in the recipe. You can just take them out. So we're using 3 eggs. These are good for the cats because they help with the fur balls, and also they help to maintain the coat nice and shiny. There we go, second one. It's so much easier to break it on the flat surface than with a knife. That way you don't get any scraps on the side. Now, second ingredient that's also not essential, the sardines. We purely add them for some flavor, so cats like it more. And also they contain some healthy fats that are good for the cat. The final ingredient in the recipe is the bone meal. The one that we have today is from Now. You can find it on Amazon, and obviously we're going to link it down below. If you do end up following the link, it does help us a little bit, so we would greatly appreciate it, but by no means is this necessary. So 35 grams. I've zeroed my scale, so I'm just going to measure minus 35 straight into the bowl. Bone meal is actually very concentrated, so even small changes in the recipe can have a big impact on the ratio. So this is where you want to be particularly careful. Exactly 35, perfect, straight in the bowl. Now all we have to do is mix it properly. So the sardines and the rest of it is obviously not blended. As I mentioned, we're not using any equipment, so you do have to put your muscles to good use and break it all apart and mix it well. Let's do that now. This recipe adds to approximately 2.5 kilos, and we do feed 2 ragdolls that are 18 months old at the moment. This batch should last us for about 10 days. Now all we have to do is to pack it in the boxes and put it in the freezer. Some of you might recognize it if you're familiar to the raw diet. These boxes are actually upcycled from the old days where we used to order food for cats. This is from the Natural Instinct, but we thought, why buy new containers? These can be reused and help the planet. For the power of editing, this took me like 5 seconds, guys. So quick. Now all there is to do is to put the food in the freezer and defrost it when needed. As mentioned earlier, we do have different videos with different recipes, so do check them out. We're going to link them at the end, and we hope you enjoyed this one. As always, thank you for watching, and we'll see you next time. FIFA, make sure you rotate it. Fits perfectly. Bye.